And welcome to Athens Off the Record, where with you, we together are going to explore the music, the movers, the makers, and the shakers right here in the classic city that we all love together. I'm your host, Cameron J., and today we are so excited to have a very special guest right here on the podcast. Michael Lachowski is an Athens original who helped define the sound of Pylon, but now helps connect people to art at the Georgia Museum of Art. And so, Michael, we are so excited to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Cameron.
Yes. Well, tell us this. What first brought you to the classic city, Athens, Georgia?
Like a lot of people, I came here to go to UGA and started out as an art student, and right from the get-go was art student in so-called art school.
Yes. Many people come and then never leave.
That's what happened eventually, yeah.
So tell us, what was the city like when you arrived, just only a few decades ago, right?
Well, it was 1974 when I arrived, and it felt like a 1947 in Athens, somewhere like that. It's kind of hard to believe that a college town with a pretty lively college culture existed right in the midst of a city that really the two of them didn't connect that much, the city life and the campus life. I do think that was changing well before I got here, but the residual nature of the era before the 70s, it was just so different from what I was used to in suburban Atlanta. When you have stores like clothing stores like Herring Mercantile, and the Kofer's Seed and Feed was like right downtown. That's where you go downtown to buy your tomato plants, your washing machines, and lawnmowers and stuff. So the restaurants, the servers in the restaurants and A&A Bakery, the hairdos that some of those ladies in the bakery had basically informed the hairdos and the wigs that the B-52, the women in the B-52s wore.
Very famous there, yes.
Yeah.
By the way, great hair too.
Oh.
So tell us, a lot of people know you for being involved with Pylon. So tell us how you went on this journey from being an art student to the band scene.
Oh, well, it was with other art students. And so my roommate, Randy Bewley, he taught me into being in a band. It was because the B-52s had popped up and really informed our scene, and he and I were listening to records from all over the U.S. and England. And the B-52s met with a dramatic, rapid success, and were being wooed into New York City to live even after signing a label recording contract. And so he and I had been experimenting with different art outside of what we were actually there to study. So we had this idea that we could kind of dabble in things that we had no business dabbling in because we weren't trained. But I was still a little reticent. I didn't think that I would necessarily be able to do anything in music that with the confidence that I had for art. But anyway, he persisted, taught me into it. We didn't know what we were doing, got guitars. I got a bass guitar from pawn shops and just started trying to figure it out. And it turns out that just because our whole circle was kind of around the art department, a friend of ours who was also an art student, Curtis Crow, became our drummer. And then we were trying to recruit a singer. We had already written some songs. We'd written lyrics, but we didn't have anyone, voicing that. And we went and asked Vanessa, at the time her name was Vanessa Briscoe.
Wonderful singer, by the way. She's amazing.
Yes, she's and that's exactly her range and the things that she did, that she brought to these kind of pedestrian lyrics that I had written up until that point before we started working on the songs together with her. She just brought such great interpretations or arrangements, I guess you'd call it, for how to sing, how to vocalize. So that's how we got started for art students. And aside from Curtis, who played drums in a high school band, none of us really knew what we were doing per se.
You could have fooled me. Tell me this. You mentioned kind of that disconnect sometimes that exists between town and gown. I think music has such a unique way of bridging that divide. When did you notice that Pylon was onto something as it related to, coming onto that scene here in Athens and beyond?
We had a really key evening where we were actually playing out in Crawford at a big house in the summertime, and because we had already been playing, and we were so nervous, and we had to look at our hands, and the audiences were telling us afterwards that we were experimental, and we were like, no, we aren't experimenting. We're trying to play our songs, Well, we had a really good night. I think some members of the B-52s came there and kind of injected a little, liveliness into the proceedings, and everybody started to kind of get into the groove of our music for the first time and started to dance. The floor of the room was moving up and down with the dancing, and if you were standing near the windows or the door, you could feel the air.
Wow.
Kind of going in and out of the room because I guess everybody was in sync. That was the night that we were like, oh, we have our community. We have we have an audience now.
Do you think that Athens having so many local venues, being a walkable city, at least in the immediate downtown area, do you think those, things contributed to your early success?
Downtown was the center of everything for us. It was during a period where economic activity downtown had subsided significantly. It's overstated a lot of times that people will often say like, oh, everybody moved to the mall, which isn't really true. But that you didn't have people living downtown at all back then. There were very limited number of bars and things like that. Our
More small business, you would say?
It was, almost all small businesses. A couple of the department stores were still, around, and dime stores and whatnot. But the scene just took over downtown to some extent. We had art studios and stuff initially.
Yeah, the photos from back then are crazy. Just seeing people in the streets for concerts and, special events.
One time we went out and flew a kite in the middle of what is now called College Square in the middle of the day. And it was kind of like our proof, like, I guess we got this whole town. So yeah, downtown has changed a lot, and venues have come and gone, but it's, it's still where a lot of the music performing venues are, and it's the entertainment district for Athens.
Sure, and there are still so many artists that come out of Athens. I mean, what do you think creates that creative spirit here? What is it that fuels that?
Well, I think it's found in other college towns, but I have been convinced over the decades that Athens is still a cut above like any other college town when it comes to that. I just think it's due in part to the early music scene, the success of the B-52s, and then REM had a lot to do with sending the signal outside of the state of Georgia about what was going on here. Also, to their credit, the members of REM stayed in Athens, not to criticize the Bees for leaving,
but put a spotlight.
But REM stayed here, and they were involved in the community, and just generationally, there was a bunch of people of our age set that were, as we became more experienced and more involved in our lives here, became spokespersons and whatnot for where we lived, and when we traveled as bands, we were constantly being interviewed on like college radio stations, or for like Newsweekly magazines or even national magazines.
A Google search of your name will still even find some of those interviews from back then. Tell me, where did Pylon go from Athens? What was next for you all?
We went to New York City. Yeah. We were pretty self-aware that the way we were making music and the type of music we were making was not going to be understood outside of Athens, except for in maybe bigger markets. So we went and played in Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston before we ever even played in Atlanta. So we really just connected the dots to like bigger cultural centers, and we were kind of playing for the critics more as much as for the audience.
Yeah. I've got to tell people, listeners, you've got to check out just photos of Pylon shows, because just the facial expressions, the movement that you can tell is happening even though it's a still image is quite remarkable to
Yeah,
see.
most of the pictures from that era were black and white.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Well, you got all the music talent, and then you have not necessarily a shift, but also this investment in visual art, right? And now have this role at the Georgia Museum of Art. Tell us about that journey as well.
I spent a lot of time after Pylon, self-employed, using some of the things I was taught in art school, because I was required to take some graphic design classes for my major in photography. At the time, I wasn't interested in graphic design, but with computer-aided design apps and things like that, I was an early adopter of all of that. So I was engaged in creative services and messaging and branding kind of ideas for quite a few years on my own. Started a magazine. I started a lot of different things. And
A multi.
I made it my business to know as much as I could about our community. I even connected with the Athens CVB really early one time and went on a FAM tour, because I felt like it was my business to understand what entrepreneurs in Athens were doing in other businesses, so that I could sell my services and have clients.
Yeah, that's good.
And those were the skills that set me up to be a fairly untraditional pick to come and work at the Georgia Museum of Art, because I didn't really come straight from a PR background.
Tell us about the museum. Tell us about how you feel, especially for those that visit Athens, right? How would you describe the personality of it? How does it reflect the personality of our local community while also showcasing art I know from around the world?
It is. The art comes from everywhere. It's just a good collection. It's not a homegrown collection in the sense that it originated over 75 years ago with a gift of 100 American paintings.
Yeah.
And Lamar Dodd, who ended up helping to, was crucial and instrumental in forming art education at the University of Georgia. He also counseled the original donor, Holbrook, and it's grown through donations. The collection has grown with a huge donation of African American art from Brenda and Larry Thompson, and another huge gift from John and Sarah Schlesinger of contemporary art, and many, many others. So we went from 100 paintings to right now somewhere approaching 18,000 works of art.
18,000.
And so we have our own permanent works in that collection, the permanent collection. We have a good bit of that on display. And we're also able to take temporary exhibitions from other museums or put together our own temporary exhibitions by borrowing art from collectors or just pulling things out of our vast collection. We've been doing this now. The museum has been free admission for its entire
Love
time.
going to the museum, by the way. Great
Yes.
place to be.
Thank you. The building is absolutely beautiful. And the caliber of our installations and our exhibitions is constantly improving and growing. It's just and we all offer a lot of programming for people, for families and academics, and a lot of engagement with UGA classes and faculty. So it's serving a lot of constituencies, from toddlers to seniors.
Yeah. Any special favorites that you have in the museum?
Well, the fan favorite, we had on the 75th anniversary, we had a vote from our audiences, and we put it together like call it like a basketball bracket thing, and narrowed it down to about 8. The one that won was La Confidence, painted by Elizabeth Jane Gardner, showing 2 women sharing a secret in a garden. It was painted in the late 19th century. It was also used as the art and the concept behind a beautiful video for REM done by James Herbert, a painting instructor at UGA, and the song Low. is absolutely beautiful. Look at that video. It's a beautiful song. The video, and then come and look at the painting that basically comes to life in this video. I'm with a lot of our visitors. I'd say that's a very singular piece that we have at the museum.
Yeah, I always love the intersection of visual art, music.
That's a good example.
Yeah, absolutely. I also really enjoyed the Waffle House exhibit that was recently there, though I will admit it did make me a little bit hungry while I was in that interactive exhibit.
Yeah.
But such a good place. First-time visitor, they're coming to the Georgia Museum of Art. Any recommendations for them, perhaps?
Well, we like for people to go ahead and reserve a free time ticket in advance if they're willing to do that. If they haven't done that preparation, they're still welcome to come. We're able to accommodate everybody that walks in. You can plan on enjoying the museum for 30 minutes or 3 hours. It
You can
depends
get lost
on how.
in there, really.
Yeah, it's not an intimidatingly large museum. If you really wanted to walk the whole thing, you could do that. But of course, there's opportunities to learn, to slow down. We really try to encourage people to view the museum as a place to have like slow looking and just to be in touch with something that's very real and tangible, to see it at scale as opposed to seeing it on a screen, on a digital screen.
Right.
So we like people to take their time and maybe come back again and see some of the same stuff again, but there'll always be new exhibitions that they haven't seen if they come every 3 months or so. So just make it your own experience, and you can engage with our programming by looking online to look at what kind of events we have on our calendar.
Yeah, a lot of events and a good gift shop as well. I do know that. You make a good point. For locals, they might feel, oh, I've been there, done that. But really, y'all do such a good job of keeping things new, fresh, and engaging.
Very much so, even more so in the last few years. Our curators and our exhibition designers and install crew and our department for the community engagement and learning, all of it is just working together beautifully right now.
Yeah, good team y'all have there. Tell us this. A visitor comes, they're an art-curious person. In addition to making a stop at the Georgia Museum of Art, where else might they find themselves?
Well, we have a beautiful civic art center here. The Linden House Art Center is also kind of at the top of the heap if you were to compare it to comparable institutions. And there are centers like that all throughout Georgia. In fact, we have an exhibition that the Georgia Museum of Art generates but doesn't exhibit. It's a triennial exhibition about contemporary work by Georgia artists.
Oh, wow.
It's been curated for the 4th iteration, is now going live this upcoming Thursday. And it'll be at the Linden House and then travel to 4 or 5 other museums or art centers across Georgia. So that's an example of the outreach that the Georgia Museum of Art can do. But the Linden House Art Center and Attica, which is the Athens Institute for Contemporary Art.
I just recently found that. I did not know about it.
And there's more. Well, there's art right here in the Classic Center.
And the arena now has some music history as well.
Oh, yeah.
So how has your view of Athens evolved? Starting a band here, going and working at the Georgia Museum of Art. I know that you've seen a lot of things, seen a lot of people come through, then versus now.
Because I never left and then came back and said, oh no, they built a big building and, somebody put a corporate business downtown. How did you let that happen? And I've heard that. I've lived here, and I don't think that Athens has been changed beyond recognition for me. A friend of mine was just telling me the other day about someone we know who says, what are you talking about? Athens is always the same. I go to the Globe. I go to the Georgia Theater. In the Palmas, it's still all the same. I don't know. Nothing's changed. So it depends on your perspective.
Sure.
I think if you're a little bit patient and understand that Athens is a very viable, economically viable, active place, there's going to be changes. And hopefully we'll just change for the better.
Yeah, Change is hard. Change is good.
Yeah.
And how lucky we are to have such a curious scene. That's what I always say.
Good
So many
word.
people
Yeah.
that are curious, whether
Yeah,
that's
that's a good
artists, musicians, makers, shakers, you name it. Where do you think we're headed next in the creative scene here?
I think it's becoming more mature, and just more professional in that way. The Athens Department of Economic Development has been offering workshops for artists where they'll learn about copyright and estate planning for their work, and there's an episode of that coming up about PR, like how to do your own PR with Amy Fleury. So that's an example of our local government helping to support local creatives.
Yeah, and we also have the newly minted Athens Creative Directory.
Well, that's being run by the same entity.
I see. Great,
yeah.
great. It almost feels like its own little chamber for people that are creative-minded. I love it.
It's designed for an artist in Athens to set up a small portfolio for themselves and indicate what areas of concentration that they're available for, so that a business owner or an art collector or whoever, interior designer, can go and look for local talent in a one-stop shop. Athens Creatives Directory.
All right, you heard it here first. Make sure to go check out all the creatives making their waves here in Athens, Georgia. So coming up on some last questions here for you, Michael Lachowski, tell us this. What keeps you rooted here? What makes you stay after all these years?
The community, the friends, the familiarity. I'm one of those people that loves the fact that wherever I go, I see people that I know, as opposed to run away from that.
When I first moved here, I thought it was big, and now it's a very small place to be.
Yeah, but it's the people. My activity in the Athens music scene, when people would ask me to weigh in on a particular band or make some kind of critical assessment of it all, I was like, I just love everything because of the people. The people who are making it. I don't need to necessarily love every style of music, but I can enjoy it because I can enjoy the audience and I can enjoy the people at the door and at the bar and on the stage.
Yeah. So much diversity of music, thought, people, fashion, the list goes on and on. All right, a few rapid fire questions for you, Michael, as we close out. The first one has to be, what is your favorite hidden gem in Athens?
Well, it would be the museum.
The museum.
Because we recently worked on a rebrand for the museum that resulted in a new logo and other advances. And their research and surveys and a lot of our visitor comments that we find on Google reviews, people say, "Oh my gosh, this place is a hidden gem," and so that's always a knock on my department because we're supposed to be telling everybody about it. But of course, we don't want it to be hidden.
Well, we're working on that right here, right now, right? All right, tell us, what is your favorite Athens memory?
I don't play favorites really, or go for apex experiences.
I like that.
But well, there's plus there's just so many really good ones.
Sure.
I'm gonna go ahead and claim Pylon's last show, which didn't hold because we got together again after that. But anyway,
that happens a lot.
It was when we canceled out, the first time, and we played at the Mad Hatter, and we turned that into a live album on Chunklet Records not too many years ago. Listening to that live album and remembering that show, it was like that was as good as that band ever was, and it was the last show. It's kind of wild, but it was a really fun show to play.
All right. And tell us, what is an annual event or festival that you never miss, and why?
Okay, well, I've been a fan of some of our annual festivals and whatnot all along. The Twilight was the first one that I fell in love with. And of course, Athfest. And now my favorite is the Athens Art Book Fair, which is put on during Athfest at Athenaeum by the Lamar Dodd School of Art Library.
Nice.
And some faculty and students there. And so the third annual just occurred earlier this year, and I hope they'll be doing it again this in late June of 2026.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for
Cameron,
joining us.
thank
Athens Off
you.
the Record. We appreciate it. And with that, this is Cameron J. Thank you so much for tuning in. This podcast has been brought to you by Visit Athens, Georgia. You can always connect with us on social media, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and learn more at visitathensga.com. Thanks so much and have a good day, everyone.